Let's now shift our attention to the United States of America, where the United States has yet again hit its borrowing cap of a staggering $31.4 trillion. The Treasury has now started taking some extraordinary measures to try to prevent a debt default by the United States. This is the U.S. Congress is now heading towards a high-stakes clash between the Democrats and the Republicans over raising the borrowing limit yet again for the American state. Now, such extraordinary measures can, of course, help reduce the amount of outstanding debt subject to the limit, which is currently set at a staggering $31.4 billion American dollars. But the Treasury is warned that the tools would only help for a limited time and likely not longer than 6 months. So basically, the debt ceiling is the maximum amount of money that the Treasury is authorized to borrow to pay its bills on Thursday. With debts climbing up to the limit, the Department of Treasury will not be able to issue new debt to pay off those that are overdue, which leaves the likelihood of defaulting to be pretty high. The Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has called on the U.S. Congress to raise the debt cap. However, the Republicans who control the House of Representatives recently did not agree and have called for spending cuts, which could cause economic shockwaves globally. Now, the House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy has said that he believes the Democrats will agree to cap the government spending to avoid a U.S. debt default, and he wants to discuss the idea with President Joe Biden.
Who wants to put the nation in some type of threat at the last minute of debt ceiling? Nobody wants to do that. That's why we're asking, let's change our behavior now. Let's sit down.
Now, analysts have warned that the crisis would, of course, impact older and vulnerable Americans who rely on government programs that would be impacted if the government were to shut down.
First of all, some people or businesses might not get paid who are expecting to be compensated by the federal government in particular programs, and we don't know who those individuals or entities would be. There could be ratings downgrades from the credit rating agencies who no longer think that we are the gold standard when it comes to borrowing.
Now, the $31.4 trillion is an artificially imposed cap. The debt ceiling has been increased roughly 80 times since the 1960s. Remember, the Congress, of course, created the debt ceiling way back in 1918 to give the government greater borrowing leverage. And it must approve each increase to ensure that the United States actually meets its debt obligation and avoids a catastrophic default. And our correspondent Susan Tehrani has been tracking the story pretty closely for us and has sent us this report from New York. Listen in.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has promised his members that he will not move to raise the spending bill without spending concessions from President Biden. However, the president has signaled that he will not negotiate at all over the spending limit with the Republicans. No one in Washington wants to be blamed for triggering a default. And while the Republicans are correct in trying to stop the reckless spending that has been going on for the past 4 years, after all, according to reports, U.S. debt held by the public is now about 100% of the GDP. The problem is, they have a small majority in the House and they don't control the Senate. So for the Republicans, they have to be very careful in picking their spending concessions and then laying it out and explaining it in reasonable terms, notably to the American public. Worst case scenario for the Republicans would be to talk tough now and then ultimately give in at the end. That is, after all, perhaps what the Democrats are hoping will happen, and hence President Biden is not coming to the negotiating table, for now at least. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.